This audio should be used for its historical value only. As a kid, I attended and stood in the front line witnessing many of these thrilling meetings of fanciers in pitting their dogs between men of wealth. Now I am going to refer to the original breeders of the Pit Bull Terrier. Yes, the boys of the old school, most of them long since passed away to the great beyond. But I knew them all. And when I was a kid, it was a treat to go to John Barnes and Jim Farley's livery stable and see a collection of pit warriors that you would have a hard time trying to beat today. Yes, indeed, as strange as it may seem, the livery stable and the pit dog played a glamorous part in my life. As I sit here writing, far from the old scenes and dreaming of my childhood days, I thought of how crazy I used to be about the Pit Bull Terrier. When I was a kid, I slipped to a dogfight, and oh how I did enjoy it. When I came back home that evening, my father was furious. In consequence of that quarrel, I ran away from home. I started to roam the world hungry and homeless. I drifted to the four winds, roaming from place to place, sometimes riding the side Pullman, other times riding the cushions, and eating mulligans cooked in coal oil cans, and smokes with tissue paper wrappers, and a bed of stars to recline. I sacrificed a good hame for the love of a dog, Jack the Nonpareil, Sleepy Jack's sire. Now getting back to the original breeders, at Jim Farley's livery stable, the Fifey Avenue livery on 2nd and Main Streets in Tijuana, California, you would meet such men as Jim Farley, Tim Kelly, Billy O'Brien, Uncle John Barnard, Ted Timony Connors, Larry Kirkpatrick, Paddy Mulligan, Nige, John T. Moore, Tex Wilson, and Judge Thornton. All these men came to California when the gold rush at St. Elmo, Lower California, in 1881. Farley became interested in mining, and in 1885 he struck it rich and sold his interests for $500,000. Then he and my dad built and operated the once famous Hotel National in Tijuana, Mexico. Jim Farley, who was an authority on the pit dog and whose judgment was respected by 95% of the old-timers, imported, bred, handled, and fought dogs from 1878 till the year 1926. His dogs were matched against many noted fighters of the past. Yes, his dogs fought great battles, and generally with success. The last few years of his life were spent in a beautiful mansion near Chula Vista, California, in San Diego County. Among the earlier dogs and bitches that proved worthy were Farley's Firefly, Donohue's Crazy Kate, who was the dam of Kirkpatrick's Punch, Farley's Game Gloria, Billy O'Brien's Judge that defeated Cockney Lloyd's Pilot in Boston in 1882, Donohue's Duchess, the dam of Barnard's Red Pete, Farley's Monkey, the dog that never met a dog that could stay with him 30 minutes. He died undefeated. And Farley's dog Chuck that defeated Harry Jennings' Croppy. Now, besides the above and others whose names at this time I do not recall, and quite remote from them, were several imported dogs such as Imp Clancy, Roby Ridge, Imp Bourbon King, Wild Trish Rose, Imp Clancy Girl, Limehouse Kitty, and the Blue Dog. The blue dog was of a peculiar blue color. Yes, sort of as mouse-colored dog. And although he was cobby, that is thick-set, short-coupled, and low in stature, he only weighed 32 beans. He had a big, wedged-shaped head with an alligator mouth and powerful jaw, and he had a wide chest and very short legs, and also short rat tail.
No doubt, it will surprise many of the breeders and pit dog men of today that in the year 1885 up to 1913, Jim Farley conducted a licensed dog PTT in the rear of the barroom of the once famous Hotel National in Tijuana. And I doubt if any place in this wide world could lay claim to so many important dog fights and so much heavy betting. Among the famous and well-known breeders that used to come to Tijuana in them years, that were Farley's friends and that I well remember. Following, Martin Bros, owners of Basco, Dennis White, Pat Curtin, John Galvin, who was Mr. Farley's brother-in-law, Arthur Banyan, Pete Conroy, Tex Wilson, George Valpy, Con Feely, James A. Boutel, John P. Burke, Old Johnny Martin from Denver, Colorado, Pat Mulligan from New York, who had a saloon on Matt Street in those days, and many others whose names I do not recall at this writing. Among those that lived in and around Tijuana were my old pal and benefactor Jim Farley, Billy O'Brien, Tim Kelly, Danny Dugan, Patty Mulligan, who was no relation to Pat of the same name, Uncle Barnard, O1D John T. Moore, Ted Timony Connors, and Judge Thornton. These old-timers owned famous warriors with a reputation in the pit. There were others, but these were the leading fanciers that fought their dogs at times for hundreds of dollars. And I cannot recall a single dispute in all these years of active dogfighting. But gradually the sport died out. Some moved away, and others scattered to different places, while others passed away. Every one of these splendid gentlemen, fine businessmen, and high-class fanciers, as fine a group of gentlemen as any community could boast of as citizens, have passed away, and only two of them are left. Who is that grand old man, Uncle John Barnard, and that disreputable drunkard and champion poker player, old Patty Mulligan? And although he played me a dirty trick once, I hold nothing against him. I really forgave him long ago. He once gave me a box of loaded cigars for a birthday present that if I smoked one and lived to sue him for damages, I'd have been arrested for trying to start a riot or a revolution against the government. Judge Thornton stops trials proceeding to see dogfight. As I sit here writing, I thought of an amusing occurrence in Tijuana in 1897. Judge Thornton's dog, Airy, the sire of that famous battle-scarred warrior, Thornton's Black Battle, had won 3 straight. Thornton's Black Battle had won 3 battles during the years of 1896 and 1897. Lucky Baldwin, the famous California racing magnate, determined to try and defeat this dog, sent to Taroff, Ireland, tore an imported dog that was a beauty and as game as they are bred. He weighed nearly 69 pounds, and Mr. Baldwin, his friends and backers, bet Judge Thornian $5,000 on this battle, which signified $10,000 to the winner. Now this dog pit faced the south side of the courthouse, and on this day of the battle, a big crowd gathered for this particular event, and betting was high. Judge Thornton's office was on the 2nd floor of the said courthouse building, and the windows were up, for it was a warm June day. Previously, old Judge Thornton had set a certain day and hour for the trial of an important case, and he had overlooked the fact that at the same date and hour, his famous battler Airy would enter the pit. However, he went on with the trial and left to Jim Farley, Uncle John Barnard, and Tim Kelly the management of the battle. About 40 minutes later, a mighty shout went up, and as the shouts of the crowd increased, old Judge Ihornton began to get nervous.